Now, William Lee is the chief economist at the Milken Institute. He joins us now from Henderson in Nevada. Thanks for joining us, William. How damaging is this for the US economy, and what are the reasons why people are staying away? We've, of course, highlighted some of them, but what is it in your view?
Well, I live in one of the tourist centers. Henderson, Nevada is a suburb of Las Vegas. And it's certainly in this town, the absence of Canadian visitors and other international visitors is quite noticeable in the hotels and other entertainment industries. Overall, for the U.S. economy, tourism is a very important sector, and international tourists clearly have declined. But the decline is something on the order of about 20 to 30% overall, and it's unevenly distributed. The border towns like Detroit and Seattle have really borne the brunt of the reduction in Canadian tourists, down as much as 30 to 50%. Here in Las Vegas, which is really an international hub for international visitors, the Canadian tourists are noticeably lower by about 20 to 30%. But surprisingly, some of our gaming establishments have noticed that their profitability of the remaining tourists has actually gone up to the point where even despite the reduction in numbers of international tourists, their profits have pretty much remained the same as they were last year, which gives the sense that a lot of the domestic tourists have made up the difference between the Canadian and other international visitors coming in. But without a doubt, the Trump tourists, the Trump policies have caused tourists to feel a little bit less welcome. Also, immigration policies have made it much more difficult to get visas to the U.S. The cutback in the number of personnel staffing embassies to issue these visas has gone down. And also remember, around February, the U.S. dollar hit its peak, jumping to this highest level ever. And that's about the time when people were planning their vacations for the summer. And so when bookings were going on, the dollar was so high that U.S. tours became incredibly expensive. So people decided we're going to skip the U.S. and go somewhere else. But now the dollar has come down to where it was a year ago. So I expect the decline in tourism to really drop off in the future.
William, very quickly here, but I mean, it's curious that actually business travel, or business travel tourism, if you will, is actually marginally higher. How do you explain that very quickly?
Because business is still business, and the United States is still the center of business around the world. International investors are coming to the U.S. Because of the investment incentives brought about by President Trump, despite the tariffs. So here in Las Vegas, international tours and conventions have also gone up to the point that have offset a lot of the retail tourists that are lost. Yeah,
and curiously, one could also say here that what we're seeing with the tourists who are actually coming, they're spending more, it would seem.
Well, the United States is a favorite vacation spot, but also a favorite place to come do business. And when they come here, I think they see that there are lots of bargains here. So the spending has really gone up because the bargains that are available in the U.S. because of the drop in energy prices and other changes have really made it quite attractive for tourists to buy stuff here.
Yeah, and also very, very quickly here, let's not forget that there's a lot of misinformation surrounding the tariffs and how they are operated.
Richard, I'm so glad you mentioned that because a lot of our Canadian friends have come here and said, you know, your tariffs on us are really unfair and they really made our costs so much higher. But remember, 85% of Canadian exports are not affected by these new tariffs. So for the Canadians, I think a lot of misinformation has been brought about because the reporting has been about these high Canadian tariffs, but 85% of their trade is exempt from these tariffs, and hardly anybody ever mentions that.
William, have a great day. William Lee there, Chief Economist at the Milken Institute, joining us from Henderson in Nevada.
Thanks for having me.